Hey y'all, welcome to Lightworker Radio. I'm your host, CanDace Johnson, and this is the channel for the chosen. Today we are talking about the dimensional shift from the third to the fourth to the fifth. I've had so many people asking me, what are the dimensions? What does this even mean? I thought I'd do a whole video about it and then talk about the shift because I've gotten a lot of downloads about this. And to start this off, we're just going to go straight into each dimension, explain what they are, and then I'll go over what's currently happening with the shift from fourth to fifth, third to fourth to fifth. And you could go to third or you go to fifth, and we'll talk about that. Okay, so how did I get here? First, I was watching Regina Meredith, and she had a guest on who was really just talking about DNA activations. But she mentioned, everyone's talking about this split in the third, the fourth, and the fifth dimensions. And she related it to music. And she said, when an artist wants to get from the third to the fifth, they use the fourth as the change point before they get to the fifth. It's like a climb up, right? And that the best music is made this way. Now, after hearing that, I then started getting that song in my head. One of my favorite songs is Hallelujah, like the one with Jeff Buckley. And in that song, there is a lyric that it goes like this: the fourth, the fifth, the minor fall, the major lift, the baffled king composing Hallelujah. And I thought, there's something to this. So I went in and I looked it up, and Stir It Up by Bob Marley is a song that uses this third, fourth, fifth. And then the White Stripes Seven Nation Army does the same thing, where it goes from the third to the fourth to the fifth. You should listen to those two songs to kind of get the gist of what this is. So I want to be able to get you to a place where you completely understand what these dimensions are. So we have to go over what are the dimensions in the first place, so you have a firm understanding. And then we're going to relate it to the ocean. We're going to relate it to sound and music. We're going to relate it to color. We're going to relate it to the spiral, so you get an idea of what's actually happening to you currently. Okay, so let's start with the first dimension. What is the first dimension? Okay. Scientists are always looking for a singular point. The singular point is the first dimension. And you could think of this point in many ways. You could think of it as a thought, because all thoughts become things first. And you could think of it as a photon. You could think of it as God or all, and we are in the mind of God, and that it wasn't a big bang, but a big implosion, not an explosion, right? You could think of this as a single-celled organism, or atom. No matter what you think of it as, I want you to think of it as one singular point. Now, this one singular point has both light and dark, okay? And both the lightness and the darkness represent the all, okay, the yin yang, and it also moves, okay? So it's not still, it's moving, and it's potential energy with mass or force or something in a packet. That's what the light represents: information, all right? Okay, first thing to remember. Remember that the first bubble is yin yang, right? It's got all of that light and darkness in one containment. That's the all. We talked about this I Ching. The split is what happens for the second dimension. And it's like you're looking into that bubble or going into that bubble. And they think of the Big Bang now as not, again, and not an explosion, an implosion. So if you were to look into that bubble or travel into it, it would become a line first, okay? And if you think of it as an expression, remember, no matter what, all of this is the same stuff, and it's got the frequency of 432, right? So that's the entire packet, no matter what expression is in there. Within that expression of expressions, or if you were to think of this an experience, when you look in, you get the full range, okay? So like the full rainbow spectrum, all of it from 0 to 100 is in that information packet. So you get love at its purest form within this packet of information, and you get lack of love at its purest form in the same packet. And you got to decide where you're traversing, either this way, or this way, or this way up, or this way in, because it's like in and out, okay? I want you to think of it like that. You can also think of the second dimension as like the blueprint for form. If you were to look at a blueprint of a building, before 3D can come up, you got to have the flat boxes and lines of where everything is. This is the first measurement point. All right. Length is here. These dots don't just go in one direction. They can go in all directions, and they connect because everything is connected by you could even think about it by the light's reflection just emanating out to connect to the point of that light reflection that emanates out, and they bleed into each other. Now, from here, let's make it all about you. You are that singular point, right? You're a ton of singular points that all have the same information. You started off as a single cell that split, right? And then went to the second dimension. And then now the third dimension. You're contained within all of this. All right. This is your boundary box. And within the third dimension, this is when we get form. Okay. And within that form, there are you in the center of this box. Okay. There's a boundary around you. There is a locked in state within this. And you can only experience what is in that box. I mean, take a look around. Don't you see that it's a box? All right. Stuck in the experience without any information from the outside of this box. Okay. That is where we were. There are some things you can think about when you think about the dimensions from this perspective, and we'll get to that next as I layer it out. But just consider yourself to be in a boundary box with not any knowledge of what is outside of the box. That's the third dimension. But you are also the first and the second. And the sixth, the eighth, the 12th, you're contained within all of it. It's all connected. Your consciousness is in this box. So let's talk about the fourth dimension. Okay. So if the third dimension is you in the boundary box, and if you see I put some squiggly black around here, I want you to think of that as just potential energy. All right. The fourth dimension is you in the boundary box or outside the boundary box looking in. Okay. So you can either be in the reality or seeing the big picture. You can see all of it. You can see the magic within it. You can see more than just what you're actually going through. You can see the whole storyline play out. And with the fourth dimension, it's like you are blinking in and out between these two places. Okay. Sometimes you're here, sometimes you're there. Especially if you've experienced being connected to everything, that's you in the fourth, looking into the third, but you can't be in both places at the same time, right? It's like, just imagine that your consciousness is going from here to there, to here to there, to here to there throughout your experience. All right. So the fifth dimension is literally being here and there simultaneously. You get to be the player of the game and have full knowledge that you're playing the game at the same time. That is how you truly take control of your universe, because you can see the whole playing field and play. That is where we're going. Okay. That's the fifth dimension. So imagine that you're living in this experience, feeling connected to all of it. The veil is literally lifted, and understanding the experience as you're having it. Think about how much more smoother you get to go through it. All right. Especially if there is this level of love involved, which we have to talk about as we talk about these dimensions. All right. So now let's go through it from the experience of the music and the sound and all these other ideas. Okay, so let's talk about the dimensions as energy, music, rhythm, color, and then we're going to relate it to the ocean. Okay, so third dimension: physical reality, duality, separation, ego based identity. I am my body. I am what I own. I am what others think of me. The musical correlation is the minor fall. Okay, the emotional weight of physical experience, lessons through contrast and limitation. The rhythm would be related to a 3/4 waltz. You can hear this in the Bohemian Rhapsody by God, what are they called? I have it on this list. Queen, love them. You can also hear it in Hallelujah with Robert Cohen, and you can hear it from like Kiss from a Rose with Seal. These will all be in the descriptions for you to listen to these songs. That is patterns repeat, limited movement, bound by time and space. The color would be red or orange. It's the root chakra, rooted in survival, and the lower chakras. Energy is dense, gravity is heavy. Keywords are fear, survival, scarcity, reaction, and karma. Okay, so that is what we are bound to in the third dimension. Now let's talk about the fourth dimension. So the third dimension is a place, but the fourth dimension is more like a gateway or a transition just to the fifth or back to the third. Okay. So I want you to think about it like that. It's the experience is time, emotion, memory, dreams, astral reality, ego death, emotional extremes, illusion and awakening. Here, time becomes more fluid and emotions become a vehicle. The music correlation, the fourth, the fifth, a shift, a harmonic leap between stability, third, and transcendence, fifth. The fourth interval creates tension. The fifth creates resolution. It's a musical gateway. Okay. The rhythm is the 4/4 beat. You can hear this in Kashmir by Led Zeppelin and Smells Like Teen Spirit by Nirvana. I decided to make it into a playlist. You can listen to these songs in order of third, fourth, fifth to get the idea. The color is the green, heart chakra. And or they say violet, indigo mix. As I looked this up and used ChatGPT to help me pull this theory together. So representing the bridge between the lower and higher consciousness. Okay. So it is like the movement place, this center of the portal, the event horizon to the fifth. Okay. Keywords: choice, polarity, illusion, shadow, healing, emotional processing, and astral journeys. Energetic law, the law of mirroring an emotion. Your perception and emotional response will either ascend you to the fifth or descend you to the third. So, in this space where we are now, it's highly emotional. If you have not noticed chaos in your personal life or in the world, I don't know, maybe this is not an experience that you're having, but if you have, this extreme emotional fields are battle testing grounds. Okay. These are the places where you have two very specific options to choose which polarizing direction you go in. You go down to the negative. If you act with lack of love within these experiences that are happening to you, it will push you down to the third. While if you can act from a place of love while this chaos is happening, it throws you up to the fifth. Okay. So it's literally like you're bouncing up and down with these different experiences falling you and pulling you back up, pushing you down and pulling you back up. Gravity. Okay. And that's how I want you to think of it. So, what's the fifth dimension like? Well, you've got unity consciousness, unconditional love, soul alignment, quantum awareness, creation through intention. Time becomes fluid or irrelevant. The musical correlation is that major lift, okay? The resolution, the exhaustion, the harmonic rise after the minor fall. So you know this in songs where you get to this point where it just goes up, right? And obviously I have some music here. Even if you think of Seven Nation Army, it starts off and then the tone quickens and then it takes you to another place. The rhythm is the polyrhythm or sacred geometry based frequency, the music of the spheres. Rhythms aren't linear, but spiral and harmonic. Okay. The color they would associate it with is like the blue, the white, the gold, the top of our chakras, associated with the higher chakras and crystalline energy. The keywords are love, unity, flow, creation, authenticity, quantum leap. And then the energy law is the law of vibration and resonance and what you internally create. You create internally and externally simultaneously in knowing that you're doing it. You don't like it's a more powerful place. It's not having to wish for the manifestation, it's being able to see it and move with power in the right direction. Now, I just said a major keyword here. I need you to remember that it is a spiral, not an up and down. Nothing is linear, right? And if you think of it as a spiral and you being that center bubble, what is happening is the densest point is always at the center, but that dense point is like a black hole. It can lead to more potential. You just have to keep going into that dark field. But on the outside of that boundary is your light. And as you're going through the experience, it's like your bubble is growing and you're taking in consciously more fields or dimensions. And as you're doing this, to grow you, You have to get past this threshold. And I want to talk about this threshold for a second. And first, I'm going to relate it to the Planck scale to give you an idea of a boundary box and then the outside of that boundary box. But there's so many other correlations to this. So if you think of this rainbow spectrum, remember we see this 1%, 2% light field within this boundary space. First, let's go here. And that it's growing outward and all of your light is expanding to capture all of it. It's not like you're moving from here to there. It's like you're becoming more. Okay. And now let's talk about the Planck scale. Okay, this image is from the CIA gateway process, and this is about the Planck equation. And I want you to see the top of the box with the infinity symbols and then the bottom of the box with the infinity symbols. That is the boundary of 3D. I want you to think of absolute infinity as being all potential energy. But that line, that in line where infinity is, that is the fourth dimension. That is the boundary between the third and the fifth. And that is what we have to traverse. That is where our energy has to to get beyond it. And if you think of this field almost like the firmament, or some specific level of energetic boundary, as our energy is trying to get beyond it, it keeps pushing it back down. And that momentum is what forces us out. And if you think of that as an experience that is really sad, like in our pet passed this week, the depth of that experience can be matched in the opposite direction. As sad as you are is as happy as you can be, because the energy is equal on both sides. So these experiences are literally putting you in a position to choose which dimension you want to land in next. So you just think of them as just think of it as a portal, or like a again, event horizon. I can't think of another word. Let's go a little bit more into this. So I can't help but think of the fourth dimension as the space where the split actually happened. And what do I mean when I say that? I think within the idea of the polarizing negative and positive, where the movement is, what if this is like the center point of that experience? And as you traverse, it's literally taking you through a psychic version of like the point of no return. And like it puts you in a chaotic field to like jostle your energy around, which it either stays deharmonized and gets quarantined down, or it becomes harmonized and gets pushed up to this next level or loop, right? Again, and if you think of the music idea of the 3/4 being the third dimension, it's like you're stuck in a pattern, okay? And that fourth dimension is trying to shift the movement and the energy so that you can reharmonize, and come up with a pattern that is absolutely unique to you. It's your pattern, all right? And that isn't the only dynamic way to think about it. You can think about it as music, you can think about it as color, you can also think about the ocean, okay? So when you think about the ocean for a minute, I want you to remember that the 3D would be the ocean floor, okay? It's high density. The experience is pressure and the movement is slow and heavy. Little light penetrates this area. The creatures adapt to scarcity, predation, and survival. It's cold, dark, and dense. And this is the ego realm where you build resilience, navigate danger, and fight for resources. You are pulled by currents, less agency, more reaction, and it's muffled and distorted, and the truth is harder to hear. Okay? The fourth dimension would be the mid waters. I'd never heard of this term before. It's called the thermocline, the chaos zone, the split zone. This is the threshold zone where temperatures, pressure, light, and life forms begin to shift dramatically. It's unstable, mysterious, sometimes turbulent. Water quality. Layers shift rapidly. Warm above, cold below. Strange currents and confusing signals. The symbolic field. You can't see clearly here. You're in emotional waters. Sometimes floating, sometimes sinking. It's easier to get lost or disoriented. Movement. Swirling currents, choice points, mirrors. Do you float, sink, or swim up? It's echoes and vibrations. They become clearer, but not always trustworthy. It's a high emotional place. There's a lot of chaos here. And that's where the polarity between the density and the darkness and the lightness is at its most extreme, okay, before you get to that light zone. So, what's the 5D? It's the sunlit surface, it's the ocean top, it's got the lowest density. It's warm, it's light, it's free flowing. It's nourishing here with diversity and harmony. Pressure is minimal, movement is easy and intuitive. The water quality is light filled, oxygen rich, buoyant. This is higher consciousness, unified awareness, effortless creation, joy, and flow. You can float, swim, or surf the waves. You co create with the elements. Crystalline clarity. Communication is fluid and direct. So, this is the zone we're moving through. And currently, we are in the thermocline. We are not in the fifth dimension just yet. We are slipping in and out. And every time we get there, it's because we have opened up to a larger level of love. Okay. And if you think about our evolution as a species, this fits in perfectly. In the beginning, we all came from the water as single celled organisms at the bottom of the ocean. We climbed and rose through wanting to be closer to the light, through the thermocline, through to the top of the ocean, through to land, and we are at the lowest level of land, folks, okay? And there are other levels to go. There are 12 dimensions. The 13th is the container of all of it, all right? So literally, I want you to think of your light, your energy, your bubble, your DNA going through this musical process, going through this color process, going through this emotional process. And what it is doing is expanding upon itself. So evolution is just more bubbles, more information that we can use, more power with the information that we use, but we got to get through this time. Now, how does this fit astrologically? Like I told you before, and I've been saying this whole time, this whole year, we are in the curtain call dress rehearsal portion of this event. What do I mean when I say that? The chaos ain't going anywhere, and it's the testing ground for if you can deal with emotional extremes from a place of love or not. And if you can, from a place of love, you evolve through to the fifth. And if you cannot, you stay in the third. And that's not a punishment. You do it when you're ready. It's a ladder. You climb it when you're ready. Okay. Now, let's go back to the beginning of this idea, back to be watching this program where the host asked the guest, Regina Meredith, in this show where I first got the idea. She says, well, it's all just a consciousness of an awareness, right? Our perception is what is evolving. And this woman looked at her plainly and frankly and said, no, there is a physical shift involved. And that is where I have nothing else to add. I don't know what that means. Okay. And I don't know what that looks like. And this isn't the only person that has said that. So if you thought about it again from the context of the ocean, the creatures at the bottom of the ocean don't talk to the creatures at the top of the ocean, but there are some creatures who can traverse. Sharks can go through all of these thresholds. Certain animals have the ability to go up and down, right? So I don't know. They see all of it, but there are some that never see each other because they are in these different planes of awareness, right? And in literally these physical different areas. All of it's the same stuff from the ocean to the earth to the air. We're all made of the same energy. What we are getting is the density of that energy. And as it gets more dense and more dense and more dense, it then turns from this plasmic structure to the next dense structure, which is water, which then gets more dense and more dense and more dense. And who knows what's at the bottom of the ocean? Don't nobody know, right? It could be a portal back up to the top and it all just keeps happening again. That's the evolution. It's going inward, expands out to its largest boundary, and then it goes in again and it tries to get that boundary larger. And that is what we're doing. So as you go through this time, as you experience the chaos of everything that is going to happen between now and let's say 2026, when those planets like Saturn and Neptune, and Jupiter and Uranus, they're going to back up to where they were before. They're playing in their new houses right now. Okay. They're going to back up to where they were before, and then they will officially be in their new signs in 2026. I think that's a really good indication of how much dress rehearsal we're going to have. And I would expect some delays or a lot of chaos come fall and winter more than even now. Okay. We are cleaning things up. We are tying up karma. We are finishing storylines. If it comes up, act in love. How do you do that? You seek all of the light that is in the darkness. And remember that the light is you. You get to choose the experience by defining each of these moments as love or a lack of love. You can get angry or you can find the love in it. You can fight somebody or you can hug somebody. Whatever it is, you're going to have to make that choice. And from that choice, it's going to put you in a place. And that is all that I got for you today. If you have any questions, let me know. I still have questions. More will probably come from this, but I'm just telling you the experience that I'm having. If you feel yourself slipping into the 5D, what I am being told is that they are trying to ensure that you crystallize in that place accordingly. So when you get to the 5D, if you feel connected to everything, for me, I look out in nature and I see a face and I know I'm in like the fifth dimension. In that moment, stay as long as you can. Hold that line, hold that energy to ensure that your body, literally your consciousness, has a memory or a place to go again so that you can have that experience for longer and longer and longer. You're not just going to jump over. It's going to be literally stretching you and pulling you and ripping you and putting you back together and scattering you and reharmonizing you. So listen to the playlist to get a full idea of this. Enjoy your day. And that is all I have for you right now. Okay. Again, we've changed the name of this. It is Welcome to Lightworker Radio. I am your host, CanDace Johnson, and this is the channel for the chosen. I hope you guys have a fabulous day, week, month, all of it. Thanks.